back where it's supposed to be, or is it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
checked it.
Cool.
All right, all set to go?
Yep.
All right, good afternoon. I'll call the meeting to order for the Town of Harwich Board of Water and Wastewater. Commissioner's agenda for the Harwich Water Department, 196 Chatham Road, Harwich, Mass. Thursday, March 3rd, 2022 at 11 a.m. We have no public comments or announcements. The consent agenda is for the minutes, not for the January 13th, but for February 3rd. We'll have those ready for the next meeting. We have no abatements, no old or unfinished business. Some new business, wastewater recharge area.
All right, so in the packet is an overview of initial site screening from our CWMP for wastewater recharge sites. And as we're kind of progressing through the CWMP revisions and communicating with the town of Dennis about a potential joint treatment plant and recharge site, been working with GHD to further investigate and validate the recharge site. So what we're looking to do, or the next step in that process, is to do an infiltration test. And really what I wanted to run by the board today was to ask, I guess, permission or bounce the idea about using, when we have a slow day, using the water department crew excavator to install the infiltration test. So it's a 10-foot diameter steel ring that gets dug into the ground, and then you run water into that ring for about a week, and you throttle the flow to make sure, or see how much water that area can handle for an effluent recharge site. So this is really honing in on the capacity. So with that, I would look to pay for the, employees' salary and wages would be paid for out of the sewer enterprise for their time spent doing that project. But really, where this is kind of starting to blur the lines, between water and wastewater, I just wanted to have an open discussion about it.
I mean, if we didn't use a water department employee, like who would we hire an outside source to do it?
Yeah, it would ultimately cost the town more money. We'd have to hire an independent contractor to do that work for us.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd rather have someone here do that.
We can save money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noreen?
The paying of the salary is fine by me. I don't see any better way. Were we supposed to actually look at some of these today, or the actual
Right, so thanks for bringing that up.
Okay.
So the site in question right now that we're looking to further investigate is the HR 12, which is the DPW site. And then presently there's an owner's unknown parcel just to the left of that. You see HR 13. That's actually a privately held parcel. It's a little small, my apologies, but there's a big 60 to 80 acre owner's unknown parcel to the west of the DPW site. I got to reach out to legal counsel to see, if there's any issues with us conducting a test there, but that would be the site for the second test.
So the first one would be the DPW,
Yep.
which obviously makes sense. What's that across the street there? What's that HR 7?
That is another, that would be my third.
Is that the
Spot.
cemetery?
No, it's on the other side of the highway. So,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're up by,
Yep.
yeah, so that is a site that's a little bit more difficult to test.
Right.
Because to do the test, we obviously have to have a water source. So what we're hoping the DPW site or the owner's unknown site would work. If those don't, due to hydraulic conditions, the HR 6 or HR 7 parcels would be my next recommendation to explore.
Where's that?
Just north of the highway, right
Oh, okay.
here.
Yep.
But again, that would take a little bit more
Right.
figuring out.
What about HR 1? It's right at Dennis Lyon.
I will have to look further into that. Because isn't that over by Robert Hour, isn't it?
Nope.
No.
That's,
No.
so you
Depot.
By the
Right, isn't that Our Road, doesn't Our Road cut through to the backside of their property?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
So I have to look at, because this, there was a spreadsheet that accompanied this map. Some of these are town-owned, some of these are not town-owned. So that may be a private lot. We're focusing on the town-owned parcels. And I think there's a desire for the town to take through eminent domain that 60-acre parcel next to the DPW site, so.
So 60 acres, you said, on that HR 13, but you said to take it, oh, it's an owner's unknown right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't remember exactly where it was towards the end of Queen Anne, beyond the dump, but isn't there an area that there've been discussions about it needs a privacy fence? There are some little pockets of residential neighbors in the midst of that commercial district, you know, which is always problematic. But I thought there had been some questions around there about making sure that that small pot, now it may not be exactly there, you know what I mean? It might be right above it or below it. Did you remember hearing anything about that, Alan, or no?
No.
Okay, well, I mean, for instance, I know they've been arguing about I shouldn't say arguing, a privacy fence for the DPW to put up, but I don't know exactly where it goes. And then 2 years ago, they said, no, it turns out that all they have to do is take down the one that's falling down. Now I notice there's a privacy fence back on this year's capital, so I just want to make sure we're not walking into an area that has neighborhood issues.
Yeah, no, I recall
There's something.
vaguely a fence conversation.
Right, yeah.
So I'll have.
Okay,
We
thank
did a site walk on Wednesday out to the owner's unknown parcel that I'm referring to, and at least there, that's where the power line easement goes through, and there's like there's a boat yard up there,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
pretty.
Hey, if you can use anything where the power lines go through, that's great. Now-
That's 13.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah, that's
adjacent
the,
to 13, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's the white parcel underneath the text HR 13,
Okay.
that large parcel there.
now, would you have to deal with, I'm sure the power company must have an easement through that area, so
Yeah.
that might be problematic, but.
But I think the hope is that it would be off, you know, we could use, actually, it may benefit us that we could use the easement, the power lines as access
Right.
out to a more remote site.
Yeah, okay, I mean, I guess, you know, since, you know, people have such strong reactions to recharge areas, I'd probably be happier if I saw it squarely in the middle of the DPW, but we gotta look other places, I suppose, so.
I was actually with Dan that day. Is there a fire hydrant at that power line?
Yeah, right at the edge of the power line there, yeah.
that's
So
it.
this is off of Queen Anne?
Yeah,
I mean, I would prefer the DPW site as well, just because it's back there, there's nothing back there, so.
Yeah.
But
there is some potential groundwater issues there, because I know, Steve reminded me, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, we had to help the DPW de-water out back, and it was due to high groundwater. So that, it could pose, we may not have capacity there,
Right.
you know, so.
But I think there's also a walk there. Remember they put that hiking trail in off of Queen Anne? You can park like a couple cars there. There's a walk that goes back there now. So I think we've crossed that trail. The things go back out behind the dump. So I don't know if that's the Harwich Conservation owns that or.
I'll have to see where that trailhead is and see
Yeah,
if I
I
can,
forgot to look at it when I.
to go in the other
I
way.
drove right by it. I forgot to look.
And of course, to play devil's advocate, if you put anything in the DPW area, there's nothing to say that we might not be wanting to put a wastewater treatment plant there years from now, and you hate to venture yourself in, so you gotta start the process.
Well, yeah, you know, we had that treatment plant there before, you know, years back.
Well, my time maybe.
Yeah.
What was it?
You weren't even in town.
No, I'm sure.
It was a treatment plant there for what?
So we used to dump cesspools
Okay,
there first, and then we had a Ocean Ox treatment plant up there, which was kind of a plant life thing.
Yeah.
It was an interesting process,
right,
and it did work, but there was so much skepticism about it.
Right.
You couldn't
Okay.
get,
yeah,
you know, it's a group from out of Woods Hole
yeah.
began it.
Mhm.
And it did, you know, it was weather, wintertime was tough on it,
Yeah,
because it had to be warm. and, but it flourished in the summer months.
Right. The other thing too is, we've got one or two brand-new streets since that time. I can't remember their names right now, but, I mean, there were a couple of little pocket developments of 5 or 6 houses that I'm sure have no idea. They were just built, you know, what potentials there are around them, so, so be it.
Does the DPW director know we look at that spot?
I've talked to, I mean, he knows that it's, yeah, actually, he does know, yeah. Because I shared,
I don't
yeah.
blindside anybody with that.
No, I corresponded with him to let him know that we were going out there to do the site walk. Yeah, so he was
So,
letting his staff know.
As far as the old dump goes, I mean, I haven't heard or seen anything of groundwater tests, you know, since it's been closed and capped, you know. And I'm sure that it exists, and if you were to try in there. But I know the lagoon times, we had problems with the, you know, the abutters, because it was polluting, like cranberry bogs in there and stuff. So there was a problem ongoing there.
And that's looking at the aerial of the DPW site, that blue square on the HR 12 parcel. Down gradient, you know, is Flax Pond,
Yeah.
a couple cranberry bogs, and there's a, you know, what appears to be a small stream that runs out and connects. And I know, we believe that the groundwater and the elevation at Flax Pond are pretty interconnected, based on that pumping operation we did over there several years ago. Steve had said they went out at the time and took an elevation measurement, although not super accurate because they were just taking them with their phones, but the elevation of Flax Pond was pretty much the same elevation of the lagoon that we were trying to dewater. And after we sucked the lagoon down, discharged behind the sand pits, the water was just coming in from the side of the banks, which is indicative that it's groundwater.
Yeah. So, I think it,
Question? Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead, Judith.
Hi, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. Thought you were finished, sorry. Alan, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you're
Go ahead, Judy. Sorry.
So, this is, kind of an engineering question. If the discharge is treated at a tertiary level and with modern engineering, which some of the plans that I've looked at are, you know, things that have not changed for many, many years, but there are wastewater treatments around New England that are close to the water, and they actually, you know, bring the discharge down to levels that are safe to, or considered safe, I mean, you know, to discharge out into the ocean. And I'm just wondering if that's something that CDM Smith even considered when they did their analysis. And I asked that because they were so negative about, over the years, about looking at any kind of alternative.
So are you thinking like an outfall pipe?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's,
If the discharge was, you know, there was a tertiary treatment.
yeah, that's not, anything I've seen in the literature, but I think it's a worthy question to ask. You know, because if we go and do this investigation, find groundwater everywhere, or groundwater such that we don't have the ability to recharge as much effluent as we need to treat, you know, it may be the option we have to go down. With respect to the groundwater and mounding there, it's not so much effluent water quality as it is hydraulic impacts on neighboring water bodies, so like ponds and streams and stuff like that. But if the recharge sites don't bear fruit, I think those are also a lot harder to permit, the outfall pipes, but again, it may be an option we have to explore.
All said, Judith?
Yes, thank you.
So I see that we're looking at a recharge site for Harwich Dennis. Is Dennis looking for a recharge site as well?
So I know Dennis has a number of recharge sites identified, a similar map that we have
Right.
here. The issue that I'm aware of that they're struggling with is that their recharge sites are within or adjacent to the Zone 2, so their drinking water wells. So that, I think, is somewhat of an internal issue they're struggling with resolving. I don't think the water district doesn't want the recharge within the Zone 2.
Right.
So I know that there's some capacity on the DPW site over there, but not enough for the full build-out.
I got a feeling that ocean outfall will be a tough nut. I mean, I think back when the MWRA, they spent a lot of money monitoring their outfall. The test sites all over, even Provincetown Coastal Studies, they monitor Boston's outfall in the seawater there. So,
Wollaston Beach?
Anything like that can affect, human life.
Yeah.
So I don't see that outfall as happening. We need to come up with an area that's affordable and, we can make happen between the two towns.
Right, makes sense.
I'd still like us to consider it, and I don't know if other communities actually need that discharge effluent to someplace away from the coast, inland as well. Because, if building continues in this area and it's doing, we've got some serious capacity issues, I think. I could be wrong, but I don't want to discount any, I think it's worth somebody looking at and doing some research and seeing if it should be part of a big plan.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask the question too, because it could be, it could be met with a hard no, or it could be something that, warrants further investigation, so
Or
it's,
very expensive, yes.
right, or very expensive, yes, right.
I'd be very concerned about dumping into an ocean, to be honest with you, man, that's just. I
You
know
need
the
to
technology's come so
for
far.
recharge anyway.
Certainly helps, yeah.
Good.
It's okay.
Noreen. I'm just not used to you asking a question, so
Exactly.
I apologize.
So I have two questions. One is, I remember, we always talked about, as Judith says, when, the water is treated to a certain level anyway, but we used to talk about having them under parking lots and everything else. Before we look into Earth, are we at that stage where we could look at like the parking areas?
Yeah,
of
so-
DPW?
Good question. So, I would say, yes, we can look at it, however, there's a caveat. It's a much more expensive infiltration system, and you have to use a much greater footprint, because you don't get the same infiltration rate with a subsurface. So, for example, I built a treatment plant in Hopkinton that had a subsurface disposal bed. It was a 100,000 gallon per day treatment plant, and it was a 2-acre leach field. The open sand beds over in Chatham, I don't know the full capacity of those, but I know that's a little under 4 acres. And I think that, I know the plant's, I think, rated at least 1 million gallons over there. I don't know what they're actually putting through, but you can get a lot more capacity out of the open sand beds. But that's one of the things when we're talking about the DHY plant, they were talking about subsurface infiltration, I think at the golf course in Yarmouth, where they were going to put it underneath the fairways and then build over it. So I think it's something that we definitely may have to, if we run into groundwater issues and we have to get more creative, it's also going to get more costly, but that's certainly something that,
E-Town does it,
yeah.
so they do it down 6 in the medium strip.
Yeah,
Really? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So what do they do? How do they do it?
They, it goes down the medium strip down to 6,
Oh,
the
good.
grassy area.
Yeah.
It's all filled, that's where they
Wow.
discharge.
Noreen?
And the only other areas that I'd be curious about, I was trying to read this yesterday, but hard on the eyes on the printer, but HR 15, awful close to Sand Pond, but, you know, right on Main Street, you know, that's attractive. And HR 16, you know, I just didn't know if they had any potential.
Yeah,
Right down Main Street you could go and,
yeah, I know the reservoir is gonna have high groundwater there for 16 and
Okay.
17.
Yeah,
And
all
I
right.
think 15 is gonna run into the same, and that's it's an interesting predicament to be in, because you know, a lot of the undeveloped areas are low-lying and wetlands, but you can't impact those
Right.
water bodies, so it's a cat and mouse game. But I think the HR 12, I'm more optimistic about HR 13, the owner's unknown. And then I think after that, we'd have to check the LiDAR to see where the upland and the lowland is, but I think the HR 7 would be because we could directional drill under the highway to do an outfall where HR 7 is.
So when are you looking to do these tests?
This spring.
Would you do 12 and 13 at the same time?
I think probably back to back, because we'd only rent the ring once, you know, one ring, have to move.
How long does the test take?
A week, I think. She said, was it a week? 3 days or a week? And you read the water running 24/7,
Okay.
and you just throttle it at night, and you're just quantifying. And then they put a monitoring well in as well, so they can monitor the groundwater mound that's created.
Yeah, she said a week,
Yeah, I feel like it was a week.
kind of makes sense now.
How big an area, how big an area are these when they're done?
Yeah, so the one the one in Chatham was about 4 acres. So I mean, on a 20-acre parcel, you know, it's pretty,
So are you just looking for the board's approval or support?
Yeah.
to-
yeah, just that there's no opposition that, you know, to use our crew to do that work.
All right.
I move.
Is there a second?
Second,
I'll second.
All right, I'm gonna take a roll call by vote because Judith's on the line. Alan?
Aye?
Noreen?
aye.
John?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
And I myself, so. All right. Buck slip.
Buck slip. And nothing in the packet. We just got the buck slip in the email inbox this morning. So in the packet, behind the well data is the template for the buck slip. Judith, I have your packet in my hand, so you don't have this.
I can take a picture of it and send it to her.
Oh,
I'll see if I can take a picture of it and send it to you, Judith.
Great, thanks.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I think I have your number.
So the Garden Club reached out to us expressing an interest to put a buck slip in the spring bill to advertise some drought-tolerant plantings, drought-tolerant, you know, stuff that's native to Cape Cod, native species. It's something, when people ask to put buck slips in, typically bring it before the board as it's, you know, something being put out from our department. The Garden Club did indicate that they were able to pay, right? They were going to cover the whole cost of the buck slip, and hopefully push this out.
Noreen?
I think this is good information. I have, you know, no issue with this, and it's certainly a great time of year. But do you ever have two buck slips? We had talked about having one to warn people about water restrictions and drought, so, I mean, doesn't probably affect them, but.
Yes, so if we would go back a couple pages in the packet, partially why I included the well monitoring data. So we have been fortunate in the last couple of weeks to have some pretty significant rainfalls, and the aquifer is trending sharply upwards. So I guess my feeling today is where everything for the bill run needs to be prepared, in the next couple weeks, really, before we can get it out. I don't want to prematurely tighten the rein on potential irrigation, because if we continue to get the recharge we've been getting, we're not going to be in the dire situation that we were expecting to be in. So I'm a little reluctant to want to put in a mandatory, strict water restriction notice in with the spring bill, only because we might not have to do that. That said, if we don't get the recovery, I would likely come back to the board and try to push out like a postcard mailing later on this spring if we find ourselves there. So that was.
After our conversation last meeting or the meeting before about this, I was just wondering, would it ever be reasonable to restrict only irrigation people? In other words, the hose people, I don't really know how much they use, no matter how long they stand out there, having been one,
Yeah.
and hold a hose. So, it just occurred to me, I said, why are we going after all the little hose people, why are you laughing?
We're just-
Oh, okay.
Those people.
I'm really sorry, I apologize, sorry.
And, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it was this spring or June, really, why should we restrict the people,
Yeah.
the hose people? If it's really having such, because I remember what, and I love gardening, but I remember what my bills were before I got irrigation. They were nothing.
Right.
No matter how long I stood out there, they were absolute, and that was with above ground irrigation and everything, everything I could possibly do.
But then are we talking about people like washing their cars and, using hose to wash your car and the same things?
Well, I think they're
How
just,
much water are they using?
I think those people are just gonna do it anyway if they have a dirty car, but, I was thinking more of the garden bed waterers.
Right.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that the garden, the hose users,
Yeah.
if you will, are part, I wouldn't attribute them being the cause.
Yeah.
And like you just said, how much are they really using?
Right.
They're not. At couple gallons a minute out of the hose, we're billing in 1,000-gallon units, and I don't think anyone's standing out there putting 1,000 gallons through the garden
Unless they
hose.
put the sprinkler head on the hose.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they go on for hours.
Go out of
So
town.
are you saying that to not implement water restrictions right now?
So, if I recall correctly, the board hasn't formally
Right,
rescinded
we haven't.
Right.
the ones from last year. So, I guess my position at this point would be to just stay as we are until we get a little bit further and see if we get more recharge. Because the second table with the bars, we are now in the 25th to 75th percentile of the well health. So, technically we're in the green.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to tighten things being in the green.
So,
With an upward
so
trend.
one snowfall and
We had 4 inches of rain.
you've had 4 inches of rain?
That's what the rain gauge said, yeah. I think
Well, I don't personally feel comfortable reducing the restrictions at this point. But if we maintain what we have right now, I guess that'd be okay.
yeah, and then my recommendation would be to maintain what we have right now, and then as we get a little bit closer to watering season, reassess where the groundwater level is and make the determination. I just don't want to, because it's also, if we send it out now and we tighten things up, it has a likely impact, on our revenue as well. If we, before we got all this precipitation, had we continued where we were, I was going to make the recommendation that we go to 2 days a week and fine people if they violate the water restrictions. If we're in that severe, which,
So we really know in May,
yeah,
whether we're good or bad.
yeah. May and June is, when we start to ramp up. And I can go back, I'll go back into our pumping records and really hone in on a drop dead date that we should have that decision made by, because you can see in the pumping records when it goes from 1 million to 5 million over the course of a couple weeks.
So that would be the next billing cycle. could have a new,
Yeah, we could do it in,
a buck slip.
yeah, the next bill, or if we wanted to do it sooner, we could do it sooner, but we could do it in the next one as well.
I mean, we are down 1 million gallons from last year, pumping, roughly. So,
Yeah, it looks like it's going pretty well as far as pumpage.
So we kind of diverged from the buck slip.
I would move that we approve the buck slip presented by the Garden Club
Second.
with the arrangements made for the next water bill issue.
Second,
so we have a motion, we have a second, and we'll take a roll call vote. Alan?
aye?
Noreen?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Superintendent's report?
All right. So I have a few things to update on. So department updates, we have next week a staff training session on Wednesday we're doing CPR, bloodborne pathogens, and training on the defibrillator. So we purchased a defibrillator from Cintas. They're the company that restocks and replenishes all the first aid and stuff down there. So they're going to be coming in to do I believe it's 4-hour training on Wednesday,
Where is the defibrillator located?
right downstairs next to the break room, just in case. Moving forward after March, I have coordinated with a company that called Contractors Risk Management. I'd used them previously when we were at Waterline. They came once a month and did our safety meetings. Bernie, who recently retired, was our safety officer, and in his absence, and really, to do it right, we brought this company in, so they're going to come down once a month and do safety meetings with
I think it's
all
a
the
great
staff.
idea, absolutely.
So that's going to be starting in April.
Who's going to be the safety officer now?
We need to get into that. And that was one of the guys that the guy that came down that sat with Steve and I, talked about setting up a safety committee and having, the point person here. So we still have to have that conversation, but
Will it be all the employees at the safety meeting?
yeah.
Okay. So it's not set up yet, but what do you think with time or things like that?
Give me 1 second. I have. Trying to just get. So the first things that we're looking at doing, the 1-hour monthly training, what we're kicking off with, trenching, excavation, hazard communication, confined space entry, respirator, silica stuff, the guys are all cutting concrete. So I'm thinking, we'll pick a day in a month, every month, have it be recurring, if it's 9 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
it's an hour training session. Maybe it's Fridays, because the guys, their schedule's the 4-hour Friday, but look to have that. And they also offer a whole multitude of other things. The company, as far as evaluating safety programs, they will show up, we can have them come up and show up on a job site and evaluate, what's going on the job site. So there's kind of a la carte that we can start building on, but I've contracted so far just for the monthly safety meetings with the prospect of building on that as
And
things
all
go.
the OSHA rules, all that stuff.
Yeah, and everyone is OSHA 10 certified. We did that a couple years ago,
Yeah.
too, so.
Do you think it would be appropriate or beneficial if a commissioner was involved with that, or would that seem overkill, or?
No, I think at the upper level, right, as far as topics, I think it would be beneficial if we have to start making investments in different equipment, safety, things like that, that there's commissioner involved. I have no, issue with that.
Okay. Anybody interested? I mean, I would I would be interested in doing it unless someone else wants to do it, I'd be fine too. Anybody interested? Judith, you wanna be part of the safety committee?
I would, yeah, I would very much like to, look for them.
Like I said, I'm involved in the safety committee at work. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, unless, like I said, unless someone else wants to do it, that's fine too, so. Alan, you want to,
Yeah, no, I'd like to do that.
You know what, how many years did I do it already?
all right.
Yeah, hours as of every week.
I believe me, we do,
Yeah.
they have my, one too, so.
I'll come once in a while, somebody else wants to come.
Yeah, yes, I think it'd be good to have someone, one of us there, just to be
Yeah.
supportive of the staff and just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a big believer in it, and anything you do to be proactive and, lower injuries and the risk of being injured or whatever, I'm all for it, so.
So let me,
It does work.
Oh, yeah, I agree, I absolutely agree, like I said, I was
Yeah.
part of it for 40 years, so.
Yeah,
I'll
John,
follow up with the guy that I've been working with
Okay.
to discuss, how it would work that, because it's something that obviously they would participate. I don't know how they've set it up in the past, if we want to do it, before each monthly meeting, convene the safety committee, or after the monthly meeting.
Right,
So let me talk to him and see
okay.
how things
Yeah.
go.
is ours still due?
Yeah, half hour every week,
Yeah,
6:30 and 1.
and then they also have to do the 40 hours.
OSHA 40?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm on that now.
And I think of all the safety gear that I bought over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pick back up. Weston and Sampson's contract operations contract for the wastewater collection system officially started this week. So I had to give them a 2 weeks notice, so they officially started March 1st. There are a couple upcoming meetings. On Monday, I will be attending the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. They're gonna be going over the warrant, so I'm gonna be there to just update them about the design, the FY '23 engineering article.
Is that the 7th?
Yeah.
What time?
I believe that's gonna be starting at 6 PM, but it's gonna be at the regular Board of Selectmen joint meeting, so it's
When is
gonna
it
be
again?
on the 7th,
Yeah,
Monday.
They begin at 6:30 usually.
Yeah, I don't know if they're starting early,
Oh,
because it's
maybe.
the joint meeting, and they're gonna be going through the warrant.
So,
sorry.
see, I just noticed a FinCom agenda this morning, which is also a joint meeting, but that was scheduled for the 14th and to be the first discussion of the capital plan. So this one does not include the capital plan?
No, I have another meeting on the 17th that is gonna be another joint meeting with the Selectmen and the Finance to go, actually, I think they might be discussing both of them at that meeting,
At which one?
the 17th.
No, but I swear that...
So there's a 10th, a
Well,
17th.
I know.
And a 7th.
Well, the little ones are what FinCom used to do Tuesday and Thursday nights
Yeah,
at this time of year. But I really thought that the one joint discussing the capital plan was on the 14th, but there are a lot of meetings being thrown on. I would like to attend that one, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out when it is. So, I mean, you don't think they're discussing the capital plan on the 7th, do you?
no.
Okay. I think it's the 14th, not the 17th, but we can find out in the
Yeah,
meantime.
so there was an email that went out, let me see. There was a meeting that went out, John Shorey of FinCom had requested me to meet with them on the 17th to discuss budget items. He was working to coordinate some individual department
Right.
meetings. Since that discussion happened, the chair of the Selectmen and FinCom convened and decided to do 2 joint meetings. They're not gonna hear all the departments.
Right.
And we're gonna do the 10th
Yeah.
and the 17th. Unfortunately, 17th, St. Patrick's Day, which is
Right.
gonna be a,
You know, I'm gonna write to you because I would still swear that's the 14th.
Yeah.
That's all right, there's a lot of
well, they
meetings.
might be doing one on the
Right. because-
14th as well,
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
yeah. And then there's,
It's just, it's late to start discussing the capital plan, so I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we get a few words in, you know.
yeah, and that's, so I think the 7th is gonna be, so we had a department head meeting yesterday, and the message was, you know, if you have to defend anything on the 7th, or the board's meeting on the 7th to go through town meeting articles, which is
Okay.
kind of a capital
It
plan.
is, I'd see
But
it.
it's not the out years on the capital plan. I
Right.
think they're only talking
But
FY '23.
Even that would be a start, you know.
So that's why I'm going on Monday, because neither board has voted,
Okay.
but I don't know about capital outlay. That's the one,
What about the,
they didn't vote
yeah,
on the late article.
that's fine. Okay, so the 7th, maybe discussing some of the things in the current year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, yeah.
And then also on March 16th, Dave Callahan of the Great Sand Lakes Association did send an invite. They're hosting a meeting. Russ from GHD is going to be there to present some information on freshwater. And they did invite members of the Water Commission. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. What they didn't want was to have it become a quorum and an open meeting and have to satisfy all the things, so they were hoping to keep it under a quorum count, but
And, you know, when you wrote yesterday, the reason I wanted it mentioned today was because I wouldn't want to give the people in that area the wrong impression, because we don't set policy. You know, the Board of Selectmen sets policy on the next wastewater area and things like that. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on ponds anyway, other than, you know, how to get money through the CPC, you know, to, you know, get them done. But I was a little bothered that they're asking for our participation rather than the Board of Selectmen.
they did ask, Dave did also ask me to extend the invitation
Okay,
to
all right,
the board.
Yeah.
So I did talk to Mike yesterday,
right.
I think it was yesterday, and let him know that he was also invited.
Yeah, would have had an email on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Can I ask, oh, sorry.
go ahead, Judith.
No, I just wanted to, thanks to, is the invitation to like, is it to discuss engineering per se, or?
no, it's just, so, you know, in talking with Russ, he's just gonna go over some things that, you know, the Great Sand Lakes folks can do, you know, today to try to help reduce some of the phosphorus inputs on the ponds. You know, just talk about kind of pond health, freshwater body health. I don't think they were looking for, you know, the water commission, wastewater commissioners to weigh in, you know, anyway. I think they just are hoping to be heard, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's bad.
And I'll share, you know, I'll share a Zoom link once it comes out, but,
Well, I know I mentioned I would be interested in, I'm on vacation now, we won't be around, so
Okay.
I won't be able to make that.
I'll try.
all right, I'll shoot out the link once Dave sends it out. Also, all right, so end of year stuff is in process, wrapping up the consumer confidence report. That has to be updated and ready to go for when the bills go out this spring. And then I'll be jumping into the annual statistical report. Beyond that, there's just some, oh, and we're also prepping the mailing for the Continental and WIDA change order. So there's about 57 houses in there. All but I think 15 of them contracted with Coastal Engineering. So there's only a few sewer service location forms that we'll need to pick up, but that is underway. And then there was just a couple of topics that I the board needs to take up really before July 1st. And I guess it kind of ties into scheduling the next meeting. But FY23 water rate increase. Last year we did the first of our 2 years of rate increase. There's also some updates to the rules and regulations that we need to address. One being on the sewer side with how do we address well customers, and also in the land use controls and the flow neutral bylaw. It's not a bylaw, it's a land use control within our regulation, but it's that land use control document. I sat down with legal counsel and the health director and the town planner a couple months ago to kind of dig into that, because there's a lot of finger pointing in the book, so we just want to kind of clarify the language so that it's more clear.
I got involved with the land use controls a few years ago, and I made several suggestions to the board, which they voted against. You know, like I didn't like the fact that they were replicating conservation area where it could be, you know, build more sewer in the parking lot, but have the conservation area be, you know, up by my house. And,
The land swap.
right, and I also did not like, the shifting of the flow allocations. I just thought it should have been more in depth. So since I was voted down on both things, I would be very interested in the land use control
Yeah. discussion.
So
I would-
I'll give it another try for my views. So,
Welcome the input, because it's
Okay.
it's just a very, very difficult thing
Yeah.
to really try to even manage.
I
you know?
really remember it was just you and I talking about it back in 18, and it's a very dry topic,
Yeah.
no pun intended with the water, but it's, you know.
Uh,
But that was in the rush to get contract one for the SRF
Right.
funding, so it was done like.
To get the 0%, they had to
That's right.
right
Yeah.
under the,
Thank you.
Another item that we're hoping to look into is the department's fee schedule. You know, for example, right now the labor rate for the digging crew is $185 an hour. That covers the trucks, the excavator, all the crew, you know, the dump truck, which is a steal. Very much.
For everything?
Yeah. Right? It's a very good.
John's gonna hire you to do some work.
Also, things like tapping fees, you know, those are also in other areas kind of referred to as system demand fees. You know, I think I've brought it up before, you know, in my town, in Pembroke, I want to say if you were to put in like an 8-inch water main for a new subdevelopment, that costs a developer like $30,000 as a system demand fee. I think for us, it's like $600 or $800. So there's a lot of potential revenue, you know, and as these developments go in, they put more strain on our water production, right? So now we're up in North Harwich looking to develop another well, which had we had system development fees earmarked for those sorts of things, that could have been funded, you know, through a different mechanism. So just, not that we have to go that way, but just topics for discussion. Also, upcoming FY23 procurements, we have to do our meter procurement this year. We had the last of the 3-year extension on that, as well as our annual procurement stuff. So, that said, I have a lot to do before the next meeting.
I have 2 questions on the last one. When you do your procurements for meters, would it be worthy, maybe not, of doing like, you know, 2-section bid and having the irrigation deduct meters in there, or is that premature?
So those are same cost for us.
Okay.
So it's, you know, whether it's a 1-inch meter or, you know, 3/4 meter,
Right.
it's the same cost whether it's being used for domestic or the sewer deduct, because it's the same.
Oh, okay.
It's the same
All
meter.
right. Yeah.
We are gonna plan on adding a new type of meter to our bid list this year that actually, for like ultrasonic, they're ultrasonic meters, where instead of having a nutating disc inside the bottom of the meter body, there's no moving parts. We installed a couple of them here because we were having issues with high iron and manganese binding up the meter bodies. So we're going to get those on our list so we can put those in where we need. Also, that same technology for compound meters, where they will remove the dual registers on the compound meters, which is a nightmare for Wellesley to deal with on the billing side of things. So,
And back to fees for 1 second. My memory's fading, but I'm trying to remember whose responsibility it was to go out and check the sewer services once they're connected.
Weston and Sampson.
Okay, so that's part of their
Yeah.
contract. They'll go out to each individual home
Yep.
once they've turned in all the paperwork, so none of our staff.
Right, yeah, no, so they'll, someone applies for a sewer service, once the contractor's installed, they have to leave the trench open and schedule the inspection, and now that'll be Weston and Sampson that goes out to do that.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to see if the board would be open to, let me see, what's today? March 3rd. Potentially going to the end of the month for the next meeting, just so I can have enough time to get my annual reports out and then put together something that we can actually have a discussion about for
Break our hearts.
the rates. It's just a busy time of.
Well, I don't know if you have this information handy, but with the rate increase we had, where are we looking as far as revenue right now?
I, off the top of my head, don't know, but I know we're collected. I don't know off the top of my head. If I'm remembering correctly, we were right on our revenue, yeah.
Okay. So we're looking for the end of last week of March? or-
Yeah, I didn't realize how many weeks there were in March. So, yeah, we could do, yeah, that last week in March,
31st?
yeah.
I
Is that,
thought you said April, no?
oh, well, I could do the 31st would be,
I can't,
No.
I have an appointment on the 31st already.
April the 7th.
That's fine.
and if something comes up in between,
Yeah.
then it, or if I get everything done sooner.
I mean, would you rather do the 24th of March, or you want to push it back to the 7th? Is later
Well,
better?
the later's better, only because I have a whole slew of night meetings over the next couple of weeks
It's
that
fine. I
is
mean,
gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got watershed on the 24th.
All right, so you want to do the 7th, April 7th?
Yes.
11 o'clock? Is that
April
what-
7th, 11th, sure.
April 7th.
Yeah.
it actually worked out, because that's already a placeholder in the calendar.
All right.
Is it okay we do that?
Julie, does that work for you?
I'm afraid to ask her.
Okay.
Yep.
Gary's been cracking the whip.
You got no excuse not to be ready.
I know. No excuse not to be ready.
And 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You guys want to go back to 8 a.m.? No?
I can't do 8.
Okay.
I'm still working. 11's
I
getting.
can't do 8, I'm retired.
11's tough. 11's getting tough for me to meet.
Oh, God, I can't wait to say that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, 20 years from now, okay. 11
Yeah, what you
a.m.
got?
That's all I got.
That's enough?
All right, anybody have commissioners report? Alan?
No, I'm good.
Noreen?
I do. Just one question. I sense that we're probably not gonna get any ARPA money for the projects that you put for, but we can't always be first in line, so. But what I was curious about, on the million that's proposed for the Office 365 to be paid for through ARPA, is the wastewater department also gonna be on the same level of licenses? Do we wanna be,
They're catching up to us.
Oh, okay.
We already have it.
All right,
So,
okay,
Yeah.
good to hear. Well, will we get reimbursed for the money we haven't, I'm only
Yeah,
teasing.
I wish.
Yeah.
Why are we not getting any funds for that?
well, we already have Microsoft Office 365 as part of
Oh,
our
that's everything.
environment here, so they're still operating, I don't know what version of Office they're using, but I do know that it's, yeah, no, I know that the version of Office they're using is so old, I had to rewrite my water bill calculator to be backwards compatible when I sent it
Oh,
out,
my God.
so,
Okay,
There.
just watching that
Yeah.
federal money being
Yeah.
handed out, so, yeah, they went
No,
with
it's
these
like
three rather than. with
Every town's on
this.
permitting is, you can do it
yeah,
by online, you can't
We'll
do
get
it
it
there.
from the fund.
it's coming.
All right.
OpenGov is
About time.
in process.
All right, John,
All set.
Judith, anything?
I was just curious, I saw an article in the Cape Cod Times or that the county commissioners have, I think it's the county commissioners, have some funding available for small businesses that are dealing with, or to help them deal with coastal flows, ocean sea level rise and things like that in the future. And I'm just wondering if those kind of grants, and it's grant money, if those grants can be used by any of our vendors to help us with any of our projects. Probably not, but I thought I'd throw the question out there.
So that was actually the grant, the CZM grant, I believe is the one that we actually applied for and didn't get for the Lothrop Ave above grade water main project.
Okay.
So at least on the
I'll
municipal
send the
side.
article and send it because they've extended this deadline, which to me says that they didn't get enough applications. I don't think it's the CZM, I think it's a different, I'll find the article and send it to you, Dorothy. How's that?
Great.
Great. Otherwise, nothing, thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second, I'll take a roll call vote. Alan?
Aye.
Noreen?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Aye. All right, see everyone on the 7th.
Thank
All right.
you, Judith.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye, Judith.
Hi, Judith.